This is the 1080p PS4 version of Uncharted 4, a game that came out back in 2016. This is what Uncharted is known for, providing gamers with an action romp through numerous breathtaking lands spread far and wide across the globe. Want to go to Nepal and uncover mysteries and relics yet to be discovered for thousands of years? Play Uncharted 2. Want to trace the footsteps of a swashbuckling pirate through various countries with gunfights and explosions every step of the way, joined by a cast of interesting Naughty Dog characters? Play Uncharted 4. Want to slowly fossilize in your chair while you die of boredom? Play Uncharted 1. Uncharted, however, is not known for its many weaknesses that can be abundantly clear to players even on first playthroughs. After mine, there was much to think about. The game was the next stop along my road of trying out all the recent PlayStation exclusives. I have actually made videos on all the 3 previous games if you would like to watch those after this. Today I want to talk to you about some of my thoughts that I had while playing and my opinion on the game by itself, as well as a part of the Uncharted series. We're going to be talking about the game's strengths, weaknesses, and how it stacks up in the Uncharted lineup, as well as the greater Naughty Dog repertoire. Spoilers for all of the mainline Uncharted games. Get your gat and your strap, as well as your creepy uncle who's always making horribly inappropriate jokes at the family function, and let's settle down for this roller coaster of a game. To start with this section, where else could we really begin? Cool shit happening all over your screen is the reason we come to Uncharted. Uncharted 4 continues this tradition, and it is objectively the best looking game in the entire series because of its technical advantages. It is the only PS4 game in the main series after all. You can see the little dust particles in Nate's attic, nature genuinely looks as chaotic and random as it is in the real world, and even Nate's little shirt flap waves in the wind. Action set pieces are executed just as well, if not better than all of the previous games. Mine and obviously just about everybody's favorite set piece from this game is definitely the one in Chapter 11 where you hang off a rope, fight on top of vehicles, race through a bustling city, and fight a monster of engineering. How in the ever-living Sully was that possible? I feel bad for the Naughty Dog workers, man. Why doesn't Daddy ever come home when he's supposed to? Chapter 11. Uncharted 4 also feels like it is designed to keep this beauty in mind. The developers know that their game is a technical marvel, and they flaunt that whenever they can. The camera zooms out when you are climbing in a beautiful environment. There are paths and stops along the way which act as places to let gamers take in the sight or get a nice screenshot in with the built-in photo mode. The game also has a pretty much non-existent HUD that is really just a godsend. I don't even care that 1,000 people have said it by this point. More games need to do this. I don't want all my games to look like that one game Jizzle plays in GTA 5. Even when the HUD does pop up during combat, it's only the bare essentials. Ammo, grenades, gun. That's it, and that's all it should be. This is a Naughty Dog game, so naturally every single character is interesting and shines when they are in any cutscene. I could watch an 8-minute long cutscene where Nate and Elena literally do jack shit and play Crash Bandicoot. Oh wait, anyway, as I was saying, the characters really make you care about them and root for them this time around. There really is no character that I would consider to be uninteresting or poorly executed. Let's go over some of the characters in this game and why I believe that they are used so skillfully. Firstly, Big Nate is given much more personality than ever before in the series. He feels a lot more relatable to the normies like us who are not mass murderers because he is thrown into this situation through an entirely human issue. He is not searching for a long lost treasure or working with mercenaries. He's trying to save his brother's life. He wants everything to just go back to normal after his brother's life is secured. This is a man who is not motivated by greed and glory, but by family and friends. He is also given a lot more reflective and thoughtful dialogue that adds a lot of depth to him and shows us a little bit of what's going on in that noggin of his. Elena also feels more believable than ever in this game. She is hardworking, caring, and contributes a lot to the game's overall theme of accepting your past and living through the future in a sustainable way. She serves almost as the role model for how Nate should strive to be, still adventurous and passionate, just without blowing people's brains out. Sully is, of course, his lovable self. What is there really to say? Just look at how he first appears in this game. Naughty Dog knows what the fans want. A full nude tour of Sully's decrepit body. Every inch of it. Aside from that, Sully just radiates awesomeness through his dialogue every second that he's on screen. There's just one major problem with Sully. The entire theme of the game is based around leaving the worst parts of your past behind while still accepting that they happened and ultimately moving on. Sully openly admits that he's still very much in the life of crime. He's still shady as hell and even gives a job to Sam in the end. This invalidates the whole journey that we went through with Nate and Elena through the course of the entire game. They grow and leave the life. Sully and Sam don't learn anything. There's no growth and no lesson that we are to learn from them. In the epilogue where we play as Nate's daughter, we see that Sam and Sully are still kicking and doing great. While this gives us a happy little conclusion to their stories, it ultimately just doesn't sit right. The life of crime that they follow so diligently should end in tragedy, but it doesn't. An exception is made for these two. Despite this problem, Sam is still an interesting character to add. He is the catalyst for all of the action in the game, and we learn a lot about Nate's past through him. He's also extremely funny and charismatic at times. My only other problem with him is how he just gets off with lying to Nate, leaving the team, and then returning to a life of crime. He is not a very good man who ignores the lesson being taught by the story. Despite this, we are meant to like him and be happy about his nice little ending. Sure, in real life this could and has happened. There have been plenty of pretty bad people who have just faced no punishment or karma, but that's not how we as consumers like our stories, and it just doesn't make for good fiction. Now for the big baddie. Well, he's actually kind of a scrawny little weasel, but that's besides the point. Rafe is an awesome villain in my opinion. He serves to teach the overarching lesson in a really effective way. He cannot let go of his treasure no matter the toil or strife it brings. He can't bear to live with the idea of himself forever being known as a trust fund boy. He needs this for his sanity and to one-up Nate, who he is forever jealous of. This short-sightedness ends up being the death of him. While he is alive though, he is a genuine threat to Nate and friends. He's filthy rich, cutthroat, and is capable of controlling people like puppets. His sidekick Nadine is also there. You could tell that they didn't want to share too much detail about her for the sake of DLC, but apart from that, she is exactly what Talbot should have been in Uncharted 3. She's well written and has her own motivations and limits. You can tell that a whole lot of effort was put into making this game feel as immersive as possible. There are so many little details that I could literally just sit here and talk about the little details of Uncharted 4 for hours, but I'll just list some of my favorites. Characters will actually start to squint and wince when Big Nate gets a little bored and tries to blind them. Nate's footsies also assume realistic positions while climbing. Don't look at that. Characters' eyes in cutscenes also look pretty dang realistic. I could be dumb and most games do this, but it's the first time I've ever noticed such realistic eyes in a game. Switching gears, let's talk about some of the gameplay improvements Uncharted 4 put into play. Grappling hooks have always been fan favorite additions to almost any game that they are put in, and that continues here. It's just plain awesome to have this at your disposal, and that's the good old Uncharted spirit. Also new is the Mario 64 style sliding. It's satisfying to control and play around with, and most importantly, it looks badass. The stealth is made a lot more enjoyable by new additions such as tall grass and the grappling hook. There are also many more climb holds and covers dotted around arenas that serve to make stealth feel smooth. The tall grass in particular is a welcome addition. Sure, it's not very original, but it is effective at providing a shallow cover system. Now to talk about the all-out warfare part of the combat. This game completely revamps the combat of the previous games, turning it into, it's just the same damn combat, I can't even lie. The funny ragdoll physics are still here though, that's nice. Aside from killing, there's also a good amount of driving in this game. The driving can feel a little bit slow at times, but I personally enjoy it. It's grounded and allows for full admiration of all the scenery. The driving sequence in Chapter 11 is nothing short of absolute set-piece mastery, unrivaled by any other game company. Oh yeah, there's also a boat. It's just kinda there though. Flipping our 17th century doubloon, let's talk about some weaknesses presented in Uncharted 4. We have to start with the classic complaint that everybody and their mother have heard about pretty much every Naughty Dog game after the Jack era, don't we? I'm of course talking about all of the boring filler between set pieces and story. Climbing, walking, easy puzzles, simple combat, etc. Pushing and maneuvering around carts has never looked prettier. The graphics and the dialogue are what make these dull moments feel at least a little interesting. This padding would not be such a big issue if the dialogue was all top-notch and thoughtful, but that's just not the case. A lot of the dialogue can feel pointless and in my opinion downright tired. Not tired in execution, the voice actors are incredible, but tired as far as writing is concerned. Lines like these.
These bridges are clearly not built to code.
Getting some exercise at least, right?
Oh, cold.
By the end of the game, you can really start to get sick of this loop of enjoyment going up and down all over again. It feels like there are so many alternatives that Naughty Dog could have padded out that extra time with. This has definitely been said before, but they could have really utilized the new tools in the game much more. The python, the rope, the sliding almost feel like wasted new additions to the game. They could have put more time into the combat or puzzles and made them into worthwhile gameplay features. And here's the best idea of them all. Maybe they could have just, taken out a lot of the padding. I don't think that anybody was out here asking for a 20-hour Uncharted game. Just think of how much funner the game would feel if it was only like 10 hours long. And yes, I did make funner up as a word. It'd be a little bit overwhelming, but you would probably walk away feeling like you just played the most action-packed 10 hours of any game ever. Leaving behind the good old length conversation, let's talk about some combat. Throwing grenades back at enemies is no longer an option. This change kind of baffles me because I feel like it worked pretty well in Uncharted 3. It allowed you to stay behind cover for a little bit longer, yet it wasn't overpowered because of the enemy's tendencies to throw grenades like they're flowers at a wedding. Grenades in Uncharted 4 seem to be much rarer than in that game, however. There also seems to be a lack of combat in Uncharted 4 as well, which is a shame because I still prefer it to holding the left stick in a direction and pressing X. The Uncharted games vary in the amount of combat that they put you through, and this game falls on the short side for sure. I still believe that the combat is simple and was outdated, but I was really missing it by the end of the game. It feels a little like there wasn't enough money in the budget for people to design fully thought out arenas, so we just ended up with a lot more running around. Filing my next complaint, immersion is something definitely worth taking into account. I felt so immersed and in tune with the game at the beginning until I saw Nate throw an innocent man off a cliff who was just doing his job. Before that point, every person in the game felt real. Even the guards that you kill as Sam genuinely felt real, because we had met with the guard as Nate, learning that they are just people too, with goals and aspirations of their own. We were also running with the cartel, and they kind of have a knack for killing innocent people. It made sense that we were killing people. We weren't being brainwashed into believing that what we were doing was good. It was a screwed up situation where bad things happen to people around them. None of these excuses apply to Nate. Nate just kills people and gets away with it for the gameplay to be about shooting shit. This of course works well for that purpose, yet really does spoil the immersion at times. After you throw that man off a cliff, enemies no longer feel human. They feel like targets for us to unload on. This can make the gameplay and story feel completely separate. There will be times like when Nate and Elena are making up with each other, and there's all these emotions being dramatized. Meanwhile, Nate's just pumping lead into guys' brains, and Elena straight up commits vehicular manslaughter without an ounce of thought or remorse. Such a lovely couple. It's like they were meant for each other. All of this brings us nicely to the next segment of the video, where we will be discussing exactly how I think Uncharted 4 stacks up when compared to the rest of the series, as well as other Naughty Dog games. The Last of Us is also not perfect at connecting gameplay and narrative, but I think that most people would agree that it is significantly better at this. I mean, Joel even goes full cyber psycho at the end. Honestly, this isn't really a big deal because Uncharted is not really about making sense, but it does seem like Uncharted 4 tried to be a little bit more emotional with their storytelling. Turning to a more fair comparison, the other Uncharted games don't really suffer from this problem as much as Uncharted 4 does. The reason for this is in the way that storytelling is approached. The earlier games are fun, exciting, playable action blockbusters that don't take themselves too seriously. Uncharted 4 tries to add in more emotion and be a little bit more serious, but these parts kind of fall into their own self-made trap. To repeat the earlier example, I don't give two shits about Nate and Elena reflecting on their relationship if they are mercilessly killing mercs while doing it. This brings up a pretty fun thought. What could have been with Uncharted 4 if the developers put less emphasis on trying to piece together a half-baked story and instead put more resources into cool shit? At the same time, you could argue that the developers did do the right thing by at least making an attempt with the story. To further compare this game with its predecessors, let's talk about padding. Uncharted 2 and 3 have considerably less padding and feel like much faster paced thrill rides in comparison to 4 and 1. Uncharted 4 being grouped in with Uncharted 1 is not good at all. At least Uncharted 4 is padded and 20 hours long. Uncharted 1 is padded and only 8 hours long. With Uncharted 2 and 3, dull moments feel solemn, and you feel more satisfied after completing them because you know that you just got 9 hours worth of awesomeness. Uncharted 1 and 4 left me feeling a bit strange. With all of this in mind, my favorite Uncharted game definitely still has to be 2. It just feels like the better Uncharted game overall due to its breakneck pacing and action. In my opinion, Uncharted 4 excels most in the character department because of just how high the quality is for each of them. All of these characters are mostly written well and can be very fun and exciting due to their natural chemistry and personality. Wrapping it all up, I'm going to say that Uncharted 2 is still the best, followed by a toss-up between 4 and 3, leaving 1 struggling desperately and sadly behind. Uncharted 4 is one of the most beautiful games ever made. This immense beauty can come with sacrifices to the gameplay and story, however, I would say that this game is definitely worth giving a shot if you are a fan of pixelated awesomeness. If you want the best Uncharted experience, I would still recommend Uncharted 2 over this game. That concludes my Uncharted video series, and these games have left me with a newfound understanding of PlayStation's exclusive strategy. Make badass games that might be lacking in other departments, but are still nonetheless exciting. A like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated, and that's it from me for today. See you in the next video.